Distracted and unable to defend myself, Jenny's father then punched me a few more times before I blacked out. When I woke up, I was alone in the hospital. Apparently, the bartender had called for an ambulance, which took me to the hospital because I had a concussion. I checked my phone and found only one message on it from Jenny, asking if I was okay. I replied that I was, but was very confused why her father had attacked me, so I called her up. "What is your father's problem with me?"
It's just Daddy's way of protecting me. He figures that if you can't fight him, then you can't protect me, and therefore you aren't good enough to date me.
That's insane. Why would he think something so incredibly stupid?
It's not stupid. It makes a lot of sense. If you can't stand up to him, then how can you protect me?
Hey there, my name is Sean, and I'm wondering if anyone else has a story similar to mine. I mean, I'm sure some people do, as I know other people that have dated someone and they couldn't stand who they were related to. Sometimes you encounter siblings that are unhinged, or occasionally even sometimes parents that are overbearing and constantly put themselves into the lives of their sons or daughters. Well, my story is about this girl named Jenny and her father that is flat out insane. Trust me, after I tell you what happened, you're going to understand what I mean, and hopefully you'll agree with me. I met Jenny about 3 years ago in a bar one Saturday night. The music was thumping, and everyone in the bar was dancing, and it was there on the dance floor that I saw Jenny. She was gorgeous, and I knew instantly that I needed to dance with her. So I made my way over to her and asked if I could join her, and she said yes. After that, we danced all night together, and I got her number and called her the next day. That one night led to several more, and before long we were inseparable. Until one day she asked if I would be interested in meeting her father. I took it to mean that we were beginning to get very serious, and that she wanted to test to see if I passed and got her father's approval, and honestly, I was more than willing. I truly did feel strong feelings for her, and I knew that I was in love with her, and so I agreed. Our first meeting wasn't too bad, I suppose, but it set the tone for what was to come.
Hey Daddy, this is Sean, the guy that I was telling you about.
Hi there. It's a pleasure to meet you, sir. Sir, are you trying to pretend to be respectful to fool me? Huh, this scrawny little piece of crap is Sean? He looks weak. What? No, I'm just being polite. I was just being nice. And I'm not scrawny at all. I doubt it. You look like a weak little kitten.
Daddy, be nice.
Oh, fine. I'll go easy on him, but only this once. He then punched me rather hard in the shoulder. I don't think he put all his weight behind it, but it did end up leaving quite the bruise. The whole interaction was odd, and I mentioned it later to Jenny, who just blew it off as normal.
That's just Daddy being Daddy. Plus, he had a few drinks in him, so he was a bit tipsy and acting a bit different.
So he's not always like that?
Not always.
Her tone didn't exactly fill me with confidence, but I had smelled alcohol on his breath, so I just accepted that she was telling the truth. That is, until 3 weeks later when I met him for the second time. I would have preferred we met him somewhere else, but Jenny told me that we would be meeting him at a bar that he liked to go to. I brought along money, hoping that maybe if I treated him to free drinks all night, that maybe that might make him like me. But by the time that we got there, he was already quite drunk. Oh great, you brought the weak little kitten. Whatever happened to George? Now he was a mountain of a man. You should have married him. He knew how to take a punch, that's for sure. A punch?
Yeah, George and Daddy were kind of drinking buddies and would get into bar fights sometimes.
How often would they get into bar fights? Why would that matter? Do you have a problem with that? Do you think less of me for it? Well, no, not at all. I've just never been in one before. Well, smart ass. Congratulations, because you're about to be in one. Just then, Jenny's father punched me in the face and then broke a bottle over my head. The glass cut me up pretty bad, but somehow I managed not to fall over, although I was pretty dazed. Distracted and unable to defend myself, Jenny's father then punched me a few more times before I blacked out. When I woke up, I was alone in the hospital. Apparently, the bartender had called for an ambulance, which took me to the hospital because I had a concussion. I checked my phone and found only one message on it from Jenny, asking if I was okay. I replied that I was, but was very confused why her father had attacked me, so I called her up. What is your father's problem with me?
It's just Daddy's way of protecting me. He figures that if you can't fight him, then you can't protect me, and therefore you aren't good enough to date me.
That's insane. Why would he think something so incredibly stupid?
It's not stupid. It makes a lot of sense. If you can't stand up to him, then how can you protect me?
I really didn't have the energy to deal with her nonsense, so I hung up on her and texted her that we were through. I wasn't going to date someone who expected me to get into regular fist fights with her father in order to prove that I was worthy of dating her. It felt like some kind of barbaric ritual that I had zero interest in. The next day when I left the hospital, I assumed that that would be the end of it. I was pretty sad as I really did love Jenny, but she was very clearly crazy, and her father was obviously even crazier. The hospital gave me the all clear and I headed home, and when I arrived, I found my apartment destroyed. Somebody had broken in and torn the place apart. All my dishes were broken, and most of my furniture as well. The windows that faced the street were shattered. I knew instantly who did it, and I called the police to report the crime. Sadly, they didn't think they would be able to find enough evidence until I remembered that my neighbor had a doorbell camera, and when I asked them, they provided the video for that day. And sure enough, Jenny's father was seen breaking into my apartment and messing up the place. I had him dead to rights, and so I pressed charges against him, and then got about to cleaning up my place. A few hours later, Jenny called me and sounded furious.
Did you call the police on my daddy?
Of course I did. Your father attacked me, and while I was in the hospital, he broke into my home and wrecked the place. He caused thousands of dollars worth of damage.
Well, you made him really angry when you showed that you couldn't take a punch. It's your fault. If you hadn't been such a weakling, then he would respect you and he wouldn't have trashed your place.
Are you insane as well? You know what? I don't care. Goodbye, Jenny. I wish I could say that I'll miss you. And then I hung up again and blocked her number. She had finally shown herself to be just as crazy as her father, and I wanted nothing to do with either of them. I assumed that at the very least her father would be arrested soon, and I wouldn't have to worry about him much longer. And so a few weeks passed, and I got my apartment all fixed up, and I was beginning to feel a bit safe again. I hadn't spoken to either Jenny or her father since I had hung up on her. Part of me worried that I would run into them one day, but I was convinced that that day wasn't going to be for some time. And then, while walking down the road on my way to my favorite coffee shop, I spotted them walking on the opposite side of the road in the opposite direction. I tried so hard to blend into the crowd, but I heard Jenny's father scream that he saw me, and when I looked, he was staring daggers at me from across the street. I felt like a matador, and he was a giant bull, and suddenly he charged at me. I truly didn't know what to do, when suddenly a car slammed into him and sent him flying 50 feet down the road. Of course, in his rage, he hadn't looked down the road to see if any cars were coming and had ran out into traffic and was struck. In a panic, I just kept walking down the sidewalk away from the accident, completely uninterested in involving myself in all that mess. Weeks later, I found out through some mutual friends that Jenny's father had been seriously injured in the accident, and as a result, would be stuck in a wheelchair for the rest of his life, because he was paralyzed from the waist down. It also had to be an electric wheelchair, as his paralysis also greatly weakened his arms as well. The fact that he had been injured so badly did help him a bit, though. Since he was in the hospital, the police were able to track him down very easily, and they arrested him. However, the judge took pity on him and assigned him to 3 years house arrest. Having no one else to care for him, Jenny was forced to move in with him and basically be his personal chef, maid and nurse as well. I have to say, after the crap they put me through, knowing that she will spend the rest of her father's life caring for him and even helping him go to the bathroom. As for me, well, I did place restraining orders on them, but I also moved on with my life and started dating again. I just started seeing this new girl, and I have to say, although I haven't met her parents yet, the bar is pretty low, and I doubt that her father will be any worse. Thanks for subscribing. Make sure to subscribe and leave a comment down below saying I subscribed, and we will try our best to reply to your comment.